Karen Jensen stood at the edge of her backyard, fists planted firmly on her hips, glaring at the rows of homes shining under the midday sun. This is ridiculous. She thought, watching the 3 neighborhood children paddling happily in her pool, oblivious to the storm brewing just beyond the confines of splashing water and laughter. She had just received an email from the HOA president, who ironically lived 2 doors down, the very same man she had caught tossing out his lawn clippings onto the shared street last week. The subject line read, "Violation Notice. Unauthorized pool structures." Sure, Karen knew the HOA rules by heart, but she also understood the deeper purpose of her backyard oasis. It wasn't merely a pool. It was an Olympic training facility in her eyes, her escape, her sanctuary. She had meticulously measured the dimensions, ensuring compliance, and even plastered motivational quotes on the surrounding fence, quotes that fueled her dreams each morning as she trained diligently. Little did the HOA know about her aspirations, or the fact that her sneaky neighbor, Kevin, was the one to report her. Kevin had a penchant for stirring trouble, and Karen had long been his main target. With a sigh, she tapped on her phone, composing a response to the HOA's email full of carefully crafted rhetoric about Olympic disciplines and community benefits. After a few minutes of typing, she hit send with a sense of defiance tinged with excitement. She was ready for a showdown, a battle of wills that took place not on a playing field, but in the realm of neighborhood politics. Karen knew the HOA board would meet that Thursday, and she planned her attendance with tactical precision. This wasn't just about her pool, it was a rallying point. She envisioned an army of supporters, neighbors who would join her cause, standing shoulder to shoulder as she spoke her truth. She felt invigorated, ready to turn her training into a movement. After all, Karen wasn't just an enforcer. She could be a champion for the community. She mulled over her strategy while enjoying their pool's refreshing serenity, fully aware that her fight had only just begun. As she gazed at her meticulously maintained lane lines, the sun glinting off the water, she could feel the first tendrils of her campaign forming. The HOA had made their move. Now it was time for hers. Karen arrived at the HOA meeting with a sense of determination coursing through her veins. The community center buzzed with familiar faces, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. As she entered the dimly lit room, the air thick with anticipation, she noticed Kevin seated smugly at the front, flipping through the meeting agenda with a self-satisfied grin. Tonight was not just a typical gathering. It was a chance for her voice to be heard. Taking a deep breath, Karen settled into her seat, feeling the weight of her neighbors' gazes upon her. The meeting kicked off with mundane topics, the state of the neighborhood landscaping, and an update on the upcoming block party. But she kept her focus sharp, waiting for her moment. Finally, after hours of discussions on trivial matters, the HOA president, Barry, cleared his throat, signaling the start of the pool violations section of the agenda. A hush fell over the crowd as he began reading from her email about the alleged breaches. Each word dripped with condescension as he highlighted Karen's pool as a potential hazard to the community. Halfway through, Karen couldn't hold back any longer. She bolted to her feet, her heart racing. "Excuse me, Barry, but I must interject." Her voice rang through the room, catching everyone's attention. The murmur of hushed whispers grew louder as their heads turned toward her. "Let's clarify," she continued, stance unwavering. "This isn't just any pool. This is a facility where I train for national swimming competitions. It's an asset to our community, a source of pride, and I believe it should be supported, not vilified." A ripple of intrigue spread through the crowd. Barry adjusted his glasses, eyebrows raised, clearly taken aback. "Karen, we appreciate your passion, but this is about adherence to community regulations. Regulations that don't account for dreams," she shot back. "You all know me. I've lived here over a decade, hosting community swim events and even volunteering for youth programs. My pool has never posed a threat. It inspires. The room began to buzz with murmurs of agreement. Karen felt encouraged, their faces, friends, neighbors, beginning to nod in her favor. Just then, Kevin sprang from his seat. But what if it disrupts the neighborhood? He scoffed, a trace of disdain in his voice. Disruption, she countered. How about celebrating achievements? Let's make this community one that nurtures talent instead of stifling it. The tension escalated, but so did her resolve. She could sense the tide turning, the dynamic shifting. It was her moment to rally their support, and she intended to seize it with both hands. The HOA meeting had reached a fever pitch, with Karen's impassioned defense of her backyard pool pitted against Kevin's attempts to undermine her. The air crackled with tension as the other board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unsure of which side to support. Karen's gaze swept across the room, locking eyes with her neighbors, willing them to see the truth behind her vision. This pool isn't just a structure, she declared, her voice carrying a note of conviction. It's a symbol of what our community can achieve when we come together to support one another's dreams. She paused, letting her words sink in, then continued, I know the rules, but I also believe that sometimes the rules need to be challenged. What good are they if they hold us back from celebrating the incredible potential in our midst? A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Karen seized the momentum. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for an opportunity to showcase the incredible talent within our community and inspire the next generation of swimmers. Kevin jumped in, his face flushed with indignation. But what about the noise? The disruption to our peaceful neighborhood? Surely you can't expect us to endorse this kind of selfish behavior. Karen turned to face him, her expression calm and resolute. Selfish. Kevin, this is about so much more than just me. It's about creating a community that celebrates and nurtures the dreams of its residents, not one that stifles them. The room erupted into a cacophony of voices, some in support of Karen, others echoing Kevin's concerns. Barry, the HOA president, raised his hands, calling for order. Let's take a moment to consider this proposal carefully. I understand the merits of Karen's argument, but we also have to weigh the potential impact on the neighborhood. Karen held her breath, her heart pounding in her chest. This was the moment of truth. Would her neighbors rally behind her vision, or would the HOA's rigid adherence to the rules prevail? The HOA meeting descended into a heated debate, with Karen passionately advocating for her backyard pool to be recognized as an Olympic training facility, while her neighbors voiced concerns about the potential disruptions it could cause. Karen stood her ground, determined to sway the board and her fellow residents. This pool isn't just a backyard structure, she reiterated, her voice steady and resolute. It's a gateway to pursuing excellence, to inspiring the next generation of swimmers in our community. She gestured toward the children playing in the pool, their laughter and splashing echoing through the room. Look at them. They're not just swimming for fun, they're honing their skills, dreaming of standing on that Olympic podium one day. And this pool is where they can make that dream a reality. Karen's words struck a chord with some of the board members, who shifted uncomfortably in their seats, contemplating the implications of her proposal. Kevin, however, remained unconvinced. But what about the noise? The increased traffic from training sessions? Surely you can't expect us to just ignore the impact on the rest of the neighborhood, he argued, his brow furrowed in concern. Karen turned to face him, her gaze unwavering. Kevin, I understand your concerns, but I believe we can find a way to balance the needs of the community with the dreams of our aspiring athletes. Perhaps we can work together to establish reasonable guidelines and schedules that minimize disruptions. As the debate continued, Karen could sense the momentum shifting in her favor. More and more of her neighbors were nodding in agreement, captivated by the idea of their community fostering Olympic-caliber talent. Finally, Barry, the HOA president, raised his hand, silencing the room. I think we've heard some compelling arguments on both sides. Let's take a short recess and reconvene to discuss this further. Karen held her breath as the board members filed out of the room, hoping that her persistence and passion had been enough to sway their decision. The recess felt like an eternity for Karen as she waited anxiously for the HOA board to return and announce their decision. She paced back and forth, replaying the arguments she had made and the reactions from her neighbors. Ad. She'd done enough to convince them. When the board members finally filed back in, Karen's heart raced with anticipation. Barry stepped to the front of the room, his expression unreadable. After careful consideration and discussion, he began, the HOA board has decided to grant an exception for Karen's backyard pool to be recognized as an Olympic training facility. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, followed by a smattering of applause. Karen felt a surge of elation, her lips curving into a triumphant smile. However, Barry continued, raising a hand to silence the room, there will be certain conditions and guidelines that must be adhered to in order to maintain the integrity of our community. Karen nodded, bracing herself for the stipulations. First and foremost, Barry stated, the pool must be available for use by the neighborhood children during set hours when training is not in progress. We want to ensure that the community as a whole can benefit from this facility. Karen readily agreed, relieved that the board was willing to compromise. Secondly, Barry went on, there will be restrictions on the number and timing of training sessions to minimize disruptions. We'd ask that you work closely with the HOA to develop a schedule that works for everyone. Absolutely, Karen responded. I'm more than happy to cooperate and ensure that the pool's use is balanced with the needs of the neighborhood. As Barry outlined the remaining guidelines, Karen listened intently, her mind already racing with ideas on how to make this partnership a success. She knew that it would take ongoing communication and collaboration, but she was determined to prove that her dream could coexist harmoniously within the community. With the meeting adjourned, Karen found herself surrounded by her neighbors, some offering congratulations, others expressing their newfound enthusiasm for the prospect of having an Olympic-caliber training facility in their backyard. She beamed with pride, already envisioning the impact it would have on the community. In the days following the HOA meeting, Karen threw herself into the task of integrating her Olympic training facility into the fabric of the neighborhood. She knew that the success of this venture hinged on her ability to balance the needs of her swimming aspirations with the concerns of her fellow residents. First, she reached out to the local swim club, proposing a partnership that would allow neighborhood children to receive coaching and access to the pool during designated community hours. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with parents eager to provide their children with the opportunity to learn from experienced instructors and hone their skills. Karen also worked closely with the HOA board to establish a comprehensive schedule for pool usage. She agreed to limit the number of high-intensity training sessions and coordinate with her neighbors to ensure that the noise and disruption were kept to a minimum. In return, the HOA granted her permission to host occasional community events, inviting the neighborhood to come and witness the progress of the young swimmers. As the weeks passed, Karen's backyard pool transformed into a hub of activity, with a steady stream of children and their parents filtering in and out during the designated community hours. The excited chatter and the sound of splashing water became a familiar soundtrack to the neighborhood, replacing the occasional grumblings that had once accompanied the pool violation saga. Karen watched with pride as her fellow residents embraced the opportunity, their children thriving under the guidance of the experienced swim coaches. She even noticed a few of the more skeptical neighbors tentatively dipping their toes in the water, their expressions shifting from skepticism to genuine enthusiasm as they witnessed the positive impact the facility was having on the community. The true test, however, came when the time arrived for Karen to compete in a national swimming competition. She had been meticulously training for this moment, and the entire neighborhood rallied behind her, organizing watch parties and sending messages of encouragement. As Karen stood on the starting block, the roar of the crowd fading into the background, she knew that her dream was no longer hers alone. It had become a shared vision, a testament to the power of community and the boundless potential that can be unlocked when we embrace and support one another's aspirations. The day of the national swimming competition had arrived, and the neighborhood was buzzing with excitement. Karen's backyard pool had become a source of pride for the community, and they were determined to show their support. As Karen prepared to take the pool deck, she could feel the weight of their collective hopes resting on her shoulders. She had worked tirelessly, sacrificing countless hours of sleep and leisure to hone her skills, and now the moment of truth had arrived. The roar of the crowd was deafening as Karen stepped up to the starting block, her muscles tensing with anticipation. She could see her neighbors in the stands, waving handmade signs and chanting her name. It was a moment she had dreamed of, and she was determined not to let them down. The starting gun fired, and Karen exploded into the water, her powerful strokes cutting through the waves with precision and grace. Her focus was laser-sharp, every muscle firing in perfect synchronicity as she pushed herself to the limit. As she neared the finish line, Karen could hear the thunderous applause and shouts of encouragement from the spectators. She refused to look up, keeping her eyes fixed on the end of the pool, her determination unwavering. With a final burst of speed, Karen touched the wall, her hand slamming the timing pad. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Karen emerged from the water, her chest heaving, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. In that moment, the neighborhood's belief in her had been vindicated. Karen's dream had become a shared victory, a testament to the power of community and the boundless potential that can be unlocked when we support one another's aspirations. As Karen stood on the podium, draped in the gold medal, she could see the faces of her neighbors beaming with pride. It was in that moment that she realized the true value of her backyard pool. It was not just a place to train, but a symbol of what can be achieved when a community comes together. In the aftermath of Karen's victorious performance at the national swimming competition, the neighborhood's pride and enthusiasm only continued to grow. The once contentious HOA meeting had given way to a genuine sense of community, as neighbors rallied behind Karen's dream and found themselves invested in her success. The pool, which had once been the source of heated debate, had now become a gathering place for the entire community. Children splashed and played during the designated community hours, their laughter echoing through the yards. Parents gathered on the sidelines, cheering on their young swimmers and sharing in the excitement of watching them hone their skills. Karen, meanwhile, had become a local celebrity, her face beaming from the front pages of the community newsletter and the neighborhood's social media channels. She embraced her newfound role, using it as a platform to inspire and motivate the next generation of swimmers. Through the creation of a summer swim league and regular clinics, Karen helped to nurture the budding talents of the neighborhood's children, many of whom had discovered a newfound passion for the sport. The pool, which had once been seen as a disruptive element, had now become a centerpiece of the community, a place where dreams were cultivated and celebrated. The HOA, too, had undergone a transformation. Once seen as the antagonists in Karen's struggle, they now worked hand in hand with her, recognizing the immense value that the Olympic training facility brought to the neighborhood. They collaborated on events, coordinated schedules, and even secured funding to expand the pool's facilities, ensuring that it could continue to serve the community's needs for years to come. As the seasons changed and the years passed, Karen's backyard pool remained a constant, a symbol of what can be achieved when a community comes together to support one another's dreams. The children who had once splashed and played in its waters grew into talented swimmers, some even following in Karen's footsteps and chasing their own Olympic aspirations. And through it all, Karen remained a steadfast champion, her passion for the sport and her unwavering commitment to her community inspiring countless others to reach for the stars. The pool, once the source of a bitter dispute, had become a unifying force, a testament to the power of perseverance and the boundless potential that can be unlocked when we believe in one another.